Welcome all to the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how awesome 40-inch tires do on Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me on episode 242 of the SnailTrail4x4 Podcast is the one and only Mr. Jeepin' Jimmy. Mr. Jeepin', how are you, buddy? Jeepin' Jimmy? In the house? Maybe? No? Mr. Toyota Jimmy. Toyota Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Hi. I didn't know who you were talking to.
I was talking to that guy behind you.
Oh, okay.
He ran off.
Yeah.
He actually ducked down behind the couch.
Got all skinny.
Did you see that the Rubicon Trail reposted the Jeepin' Jimmy video?
I did. I did see that. That was funny.
I'm pretty sure that's John Arns controlling that. It's either John or JC. So one of those two. I don't know if John listens to the podcast, but I'm pretty sure JC does. At least he did. So, JC, if that was you, kudos. Good job, buddy. Give you a high five later.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Oh, man. So cool, man. This is episode 242, the first day of Jim's month. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel older.
You should.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do I?
You look older.
Well, yeah. Thanks. I feel it. This married life, you know?
It's wearing on you.
Wearing on me.
Oh, man. Good times. So November 1st, I hope everybody had a good and safe Halloween. Hopefully you guys are coming off of your sugar comatoses. I think that's why Jimmy looks a little older, because he has a sugar hangover right now.
Yes.
How late did you stay up last night eating all of your daughter's candy?
At midnight. Midnight 30. I just was plowing through the Snickers.
Nice. Got all the stickers as you could.
The Snickers.
The Snickers. There you go.
Snickers, yes. I love Snickers.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. I may have to incorporate that into Jim's month at some point. Hopefully everybody else out there had a great comatose last night, and you're up for some fun talks today. We have a couple of fun topics lined up for you guys. One about tires. I've had a lot of people ask me about my final review on Patagonia tires. Yeah. And so we're going to kind of get into that today a little bit, and a little bit more tires. So not just about the Patagonias, but in depth about, generalizations about tires and what you want to look for in tires, depending on what you want your tires to do, I guess.
Correct. Yeah. So sounds good.
We'll get into that. And if we have some time left over, a really interesting talk came up between me and some buddies while we were out on the Rubicon around the campfire. Okay. So it should make an interesting campfire discussion as well. But we'll see how time goes if we get to it. If not, we'll hold it off for another day.
Cool.
So let's see. It is November now, so you can no longer get in for the gift box tier.
Right. And that is sad for everybody that did not sign up.
I'm kind of excited about it because we're looking at more and more boxes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that tier going, oh man, we got more work now.
We do. It's but since we already have our game plan ahead of us, I think that this one's going to be a little easier on us. Mm-hmm. But it's just as a matter of, trying to move it forward sooner than later, especially with everything happening. Yeah.
Let's see if we can get stuff ordered up before the end of the year. That way, if there's any back orders on stuff, we'll have 4 months to figure it out.
I'm down to try that.
Yeah. I'm excited for Tyler's month here. So that's coming up in April. We've got a theme ready for the box. We have kind of a list of items we wanted to get for the box. And so I think we're like almost 6 months ahead of where we were last time.
Yeah. Not only do we have a theme for the box, we have a whole theme for that month. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be exciting. And we've got to line up a few interviews and try to get a few things dialed out. But yeah, I think April is going to be a very fun month.
I agree. It's definitely one of my favorite things to do.
Yes.
So cool, man. So we got that coming up. Let's see, November, we do have fun gift for the giveaway this month from Stellar-Built.
Yeah, we've got the Pro Link from Factor 55, and this is in, I believe, I don't know if they call it military green or OD green or one of those colors, but it's like a dark olive green-ish color.
Yeah, it's a military green is what it is, that you see a lot of the military vehicles colored in, and that's a limited run color from Factor 55. So
Correct.
That's not one of their standard colors. I don't think they're going to ever do it again because apparently it didn't sell very well. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I really like it. Looking at that green makes me really want to Raptor line the 4Runner in that green.
That's a cool color, for sure.
It almost looks like the same color that Toyota does on the Tacomas.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty
green.
close.
So, yeah, it's a really cool that green olive green color to it from Dimitri over at Stellar-Built. So we'll have that going on this month. You have until the end of the month to get in for that giveaway. So that'll be November 30th this month. Make sure you signed up for the giveaway tier.
Yeah, the ProLink retails, the ProLink retails for $143.
Nice. It's a nice, good chunk of change we're saving somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I know if I had a winch, I could use it.
If you had a winch, yeah.
But no, kudos and thank you to Dimitri over at Stellar-Built for donating that for this month's giveaway.
Yeah. So everybody go check him out on Instagram. It's at Stellar-Built. And if you guys want any work done to your Toyota vehicles or Mercedes Sprinter vans or Ford Transit vans, hit him up. He has a new space there, and we went over it in episode 240 with him, some of the highlights of it all, and looks like they're going to be expanding what they're working on now.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Really very cool, man. Is there anything else? Any other good, fun, exciting news we got for everybody?
No, I think maybe just a little heads up to wait till the very beginning of January, and we're going to start switching the payment methods over to annual if you're interested in getting into that. So we will open that up in January just because of the way that Patreon schedules or runs things. It's not to your guys' benefit to turn it on yet. So we're going to wait until the beginning of the year, and then we'll turn it on so that you guys get the best bang for your buck there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I still don't understand why they do it that way.
Yeah,
but
I know, that's weird.
That's what they do. And instead of making you guys waste $120, I figured we would just wait to turn it on in January. That way you get to make the full use of $120. So
for sure.
All right. So along with saving you guys some money on the patron tiers, we have a couple of corrections from previous episodes and some reviews.
Okay.
So let's go over the reviews first because those are a lot more fun than corrections.
Sounds good.
First review here is from NCFJ Dave, and based on the review, it's a long one.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's North Carolina FJ Dave.
Got it.
So first off, North Carolina FJ Dave, he only gave us 4 stars.
That's okay.
It's not okay. We're skipping his review now. No, I'm kidding. He wouldn't get stickers if this was Wheeling Wine and Whiskey.
That's true.
He doesn't get stickers from us anyways, but he does.
That's true also.
You do get entered for the swag giveaway, the swag drawing, and also the winch giveaway once we reach 500. So, we like to go through reviews and collect reviews because we are going to be giving away a winch. Reviews are definitely the best way to help the podcast grow as people kind of look into podcasts. And there's a lot of podcast feeding programs out there like Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes. A lot of them will prioritize what podcasts they feed people based on reviews.
Got it.
So if you guys like the podcast here and like what we're doing and like the things that we're giving back to you guys as the listeners, and you want to help see us grow, reviews is definitely one of the best and easiest ways, biggest bang for your buck, because it's free to help do that. So in order to help encourage that and let the review juices flow, we're going to be giving away a winch at 500 reviews. And that winch and the people eligible to win that are going to be everybody who has submitted a review up to 500. Wow. So if you're 501, you do not get to get in on the drawing. So
right. And we are doing little swag packs every 50 reviews until we get there. So what are we at now?
We're at 326.
326. So we need 24 more reviews, and then we'll do another drawing for a swag pack.
Yep. And I've got some pretty cool items for the next swag pack. So
excellent.
They're sitting at home. They're not here. I need to just bring them down here so we have them. But
definitely.
I got some fun items for the 350 swag pack. So until we get there, here's a few reviews.
All right.
And this one here.
Yeah, starting with North Carolina, FJ Joe.
FJ Dave.
FJ Dave.
Same thing.
Hey, Dave.
Joe, Dave, whatever. It says, keeps our ear holes filled. He says, I enjoy listening to their banter back and forth. It helps pass the time away on my 2-hour daily commute. That's rough.
Yeah.
Sorry. The jokes are meh, Jimmy, but every once in a while they'll get me to chuckle. They definitely have some good Toyota knowledge and information. That's good. I thought surprising to me. I'm glad that the show is not littered with advertisements like a lot of other podcasts are. I am really glad that they are getting involved in promoting, educating off-roaders into the importance of keeping trails open. It's a big problem on the East Coast here, and from the sounds of it, worse on the West Coast. Please continue your involvement in this and keep talking about this on your podcast. It would be great for you guys to share your knowledge with us, folks, groups on the East Coast, so we can band together better to fight the bigger cause. We are too divided on this side of the country. Keep up the good work and get the better halves more involved, as I enjoy hearing their sides of the trail rides and camping. Thanks for doing what you do.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat. And this review here is actually why I want to cover the second topic of today, if we can get into it here. So thanks, Dave. Well, that's a cool...
And we just had one of our listeners and patrons write us and ask us sort of the some of the same stuff that he was saying.
Exactly.
You know, where the patron had an issue come up with some illegal dumping happening on the trail, and then like within 24 hours they were trying to close that trail down.
Yeah, the land managers put up a gate for that trail within 24 hours of the illegal dumping happening, and he was like, what do we do? What's the best way to fight this and bring it up? And so I wrote out a couple of lengthy emails about stuff that works here, or we've found to help here in California. So hopefully we can share that, and like Dave was saying, kind of get everybody on board here with what works.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually what kind of started and fueled the campfire discussion I had with the guys out on the Rubicon.
Oh.
So it was that email right there.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that in this episode, hopefully here. So next review comes from Arise Honk. It says, great podcast, the best Toyota info out there! ! 5 stars.
Nice. Thanks, Honk.
Yeah, thanks, Honk. Mr. Arise or Miss Arise or Mrs. Arise, whoever it is. Next one and last one for today is Jeanette Grow. It says, superior quality podcast for drivers of superior quality Toyota vehicles, or those that wish they could. I would imagine that they'll let you listen even if you choose to drive inferior off-road vehicles like Jeeps. But you had probably better get permission first. No, it's okay. We love all of our Jeep listeners, just not the Dodge listeners.
Correct.
Yeah. If you drive a Dodge, you're not allowed to listen anymore. Sorry.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Blocking you.
Bye, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
Thanks, Jeanette. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I love reading all these the fun reviews here, especially ones that start bagging on other vehicles. So makes life entertaining, Jimmy.
I agree.
Very cool.
All right, you have some feedback for us?
We do have some feedback, and it was from episode 238.
Okay.
Which was the dual battery considerations.
Okay.
The first one was that essentially we never want to exceed or even reach 100% capacity of the draw on a circuit. And I would agree to that. I mean, if you want to keep everything super safe, and the example is because I was talking about how, you know, if we have a light bar that's 120 watts and we fuse that circuit for 15 amps, which it should technically be like 12 to 13 amps, but we fuse it for 15 amps, that technically we should be fusing for 80% of, or 120%. So 20% over what our draw is going to be on that circuit to keep everything safe. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. And that's why I didn't want to get into it, because it's really hard to explain what you're saying. So, you don't want to set up an electrical circuit to draw 15 amps and then fuse it for 15 amps.
Okay.
You want to fuse it for 20% over what you set up the circuit for.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the draw of the circuit should be 80% of what you fuse it for, but you're fusing for what you build it for. So that's like, it's a roundabout way of explaining it the way the listener explained it, I guess.
Okay.
So I hope that's clear. In my example, I was talking about, if you, if you're running whatever the circuit and you fuse it for 15, the draw, if that circuit shorts, a short is going to draw more than 15 amps. So that's kind of why I thought we mentioned that and brought that up. And like, if you're trying to build a circuit that has like 50 to 60 amps on it, then yes, you want your fuses to be dead on exact. But if your circuit is only like if you're fusing for like a 15 amp thing, and you're only using like 5 amps on your circuit, then a short is going to pull more than 15 amps and it'll trigger the fuse. So, I mean, when you're dealing with less power, you can take less caution, but when you're dealing with electricity, it is a good practice to just do it correctly every single time. So,
okay.
Do as, I guess I shouldn't even say that, because do as other people say, do it properly. Don't do it as I say. So, that was the first piece of feedback. The second piece of feedback was, I learned something new, that I was saying a 2.0 cable or like 1.0 cable when we were talking about the different gauges and really thick gauge cabling.
Yeah.
That is called out. So it's called 2 out or 1 out. And so what that describes is a really thick gauge cable that's thicker than 0 gauge. Because if you think about how gauges are measured, because it's an inverse, whoever decided, Mr. Gauge decided to set these up this way. 18 gauge wire is thinner than 10 gauge wire.
Correct.
And so as you go from 18 down to 0 gauge, what if you need wire that's thicker than 0 gauge? And that's when you get into wire that says 2/0 or 1/0. And what that's called is 1 out or 2 out. And then you can keep going. 3 out, 4 out.
Out in a way, in dummy terms, means bigger.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So that's what that's called. I kept saying 1.0 or 2.0 gauge wiring, and it's called 1 out or 2 out gauge wiring. Okay. So I thought that was neat. I learned something new, and now I can actually say it correctly whenever I go looking for that size wiring at the auto parts store.
Nice.
So yeah, those were our 2 pieces of feedback from listeners from episode 238.
Well, I got a piece of feedback as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I was because I kept asking questions like, how do you know this stuff? What do we need to do? Oh, let's Google it. Let's figure it out. One of our listeners wrote me and said that there's a good reference book that you can get. It's called Ugly's Electrical Reference.
Oh, yeah.
And they sell it at Home Depot or on Amazon, and it's like $15, and it should answer all these questions that we were kind of asking back and forth that we were saying, go Google. So there's
probably an app for it as well, now that I'm thinking about it.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure. Probably is.
Yeah, I know that Miller has a welding app that will tell you kind of starting points.
Yeah.
For
like if you're using this wire and you're going to weld X material, this is the settings you should use.
Yep, your starting settings, and you kind of fine tune and adjust it from there. But yeah, I would imagine there's probably an app that says
probably
if you're trying to build a circuit for this much draw, here's the gauge wiring you should be using, kind of thing. So yeah, so $15 book called Ugly's
Electrical Reference.
Gotcha. Over at Home Depot.
Yep.
Nice.
Or on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So check that out. Anybody who's going to be doing electrical work and you're kind of new to it, having that reference chart to make sure that you're building circuits properly is a very handy thing to have.
Yes.
So cool. I think that about does it.
I'm ready.
Definitely does it. You ready for today's talk?
Yes. Let's talk.
All right. Let's talk, buddy. And so let's get on over and do some talking. And I need coffee first.
Okay.
So we're going to take a quick break. and I'm going to get some coffee.
I'm going to get some Screwball.
And I was going to get Screwball. You don't have any coffee, though. You're just going to be drinking Screwball? Nice. Perfect. And we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion. Welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies, to today's campfire discussion, which is actually like both of the topics we have planned today are actual like campfire talks.
Yeah,
that
they have
happened.
been. Yeah, happened around the campfire.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one is going to be talking about Tyler's. I mean, tires.
Tyler's tires.
Tyler's tires. There we go.
Tyler's.
Yeah.
Did you combine tires and Tyler?
I tried to. Was it clever? Did it work?
No, it sounded like Tyler's.
That's what I said. Oh, man. It's about me today. Yay.
No, that's April.
Oh, that's April. Sorry. Today's episode, I wanted to talk about the Patagonia tires.
Yes.
Because I got a used set from Will, and I've now, my thinking kind of came true. I was like, hey, I'm going to get some rock crawling in with these tires and test them out on rocks out on the Rubicon. And then we saw this storm come in. And I was like, man, I might be able to get like rock review and snow review out of one trip pretty much, out of one weekend.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened.
Well, and I'm curious, and one of the things I was going to ask is, do you think your rock review is sufficient? Because it was like wet rock review.
It was, so here's the thing about being a wet rock review, and at least this is kind of what I felt while I was out there. Granite is such a rough, coarse material, like blue granite, which is what we have. And so even though it was wet, like it was cleaned off from the dust. And when the dust fills in all those rough voids, that's when, in my opinion, granite gets slippery.
Okay.
And when you have clean granite, it's like sandpaper, even if it's wet. It's when you get polished granite that things get really slippery. Like the sandstone out in Moab, when that gets wet, man, that gets snotty, that gets slippery. Mm-hmm. But when granite gets wet, unless it's polished granite, it almost gets more traction when it's wet, I found.
Because you think that the dirt and dust is washed away, so now we got more grip.
I think we have more, and blue granite is one of the hardest rock materials out there. So, I mean, it takes a lot to wear out the coarseness of blue granite. And so I don't know, from what I experienced this last weekend going through the Rubicon on wet rocks, I had more traction than I do during the summertime.
Okay.
But that could also just be the difference in tires.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing. So let's start with what I got. Right? Okay.
What'd you get?
I got a set of used Milestar Patagonia tires.
What sizes?
40 by 1350 by 17.
Okay.
So 40-inch tire, 1350 wide, 17-inch rims. And they are D-rated, 8-ply walls.
Okay.
And they were worn down to about 40% tread when I got them. So,
what size, what's the width of your rim?
My rims are 9.5-inch width with bead locks. So not only are they 9.5, but then the tire sits on the outside of the rim on the front side. And so you're really, I mean, it's
maybe another half an inch,
maybe another half an inch to 1 inch, something like that.
I don't know about 1 inch, but yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. So, so I'm running a 9.5-inch rims from Race Lines with bead locks, and love them. And so some of the issues I had with my IROCs, right? And this is why I wanted to get into this, because I'm doing a new axle and suspension build on the 4Runner, hopefully this winter. And I'm trying to figure out what tires I want to run next, because I love my IROCs, but I don't want to run them again because they're too expensive to drive on the street.
Right.
I'll be buying a new set of IROCs every year.
42 Baja Claws.
42 Baja Claws. That's we'll get into that later. So I was like, if you've been listening to the podcast for the last, 20, 30 episodes, you'll know I'm having this conundrum with tires, right? And so I've kind of narrowed it down to the Milestar Patagonias. the Cooper STT Pros or the Mickey Thompson Baja Boss, which is not to be confused with the Baja Pro. That is like the really super gnarly one they just came out with that a lot of the rock crawlers are using right now. So essentially the similar ideas that all three of those tires have is a very narrow, put together middle tread pattern with really wide shoulder lugs.
Okay.
Kind of like IROX, but just not as extreme as IROX.
Got it.
And
Isn't there a term for that? Don't they have a specific kind of term for that? It's
I don't know.
A hybrid or something it's somewhere between an AT and an MT. Like the center of the tire is kind of AT-ish and the exterior of the tire is MT.
Maybe they do. That'd be great to know, because that way I can know, hey, if I go to a tire dealer, I'm looking for this style of category of tire for what I'm looking for, see what they got. But yeah, essentially, so the centers are tighter together, the center treads, which makes it a little bit quieter on the road, a little nicer to handling on the road, better wear patterns on the road, last a little bit longer. And then the outside shoulder lugs are really spread out so that you can clear the tread easily of snow, mud, debris, so that they grab onto rocks as you're turning over, as you're turning the tires, kind of thing. And so I was looking at the Milestar Patagonias, and I've been very skeptical of them. I haven't given them a whole lot of credit in the past because they're a new tire on the market. In my opinion, they're unproven still compared to like the popular ones out there, like the Nittos or Toyos or the Coopers or Procons, anything out there that's been out there for a while. And they're a really inexpensive tire. When you compare them to all of their equivalents from other brands, they're like 30% less expensive than everything else. So it's like, in my experience in the off-roading world, typically price will follow value. So typically speaking, the higher price something is, the more value you are going to get out of it.
Okay, so the fact that one of the reasons you written the Patagonias off because they're new, and you what's the word, that you discounted them as a good possible tire because they're cheaper.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just from my experience, right? Okay. And so but we've had listeners write in and show us comparisons. I go back to the little study analysis that the one guy did about the rubber compounds in each of the tires and how soft or hard they are. And the Patagonias came up as the softest tire out of the grouping that he did. And I think he did like the Nitto Trail Grapplers, the Toyo MTs, the Coopers, and the BFGs. And so I was like, I like soft compound tires without getting into sticky compounds. A softer compound DOT approved is nice. That's what IROX are, essentially. And so having a softer compound just allows the tire to flex more as you air down, right? So as a tire flexes more when you air down, you get more traction on whatever surface you're on.
Right.
By creating a bigger contact patch with the surface you're on, you just get more traction. So whether that's rocks, mud, snow, sand, ice, whatever it is. And so I was like, okay, so I wanted a softer compound, but not so soft that it ends up being hard in winter, like when it gets cold, like stickies do. So the Milestar Patagonias came up the winner of that priority for me, right?
Right. Okay.
Granted, I didn't get to test the Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses or a couple of other tires out there, but from the tires that guy did test that are, put them up against the big names in tires, the Patagonias won. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, that's good. I like soft tires. And so I started looking into it more. And then Milestar is a big supporter of tread lightly and public trails and keeping trails public and open to the public for vehicular recreation. And I was like, I really, really like that. Like if I'm going to spend money somewhere, I want my money to somehow, some way go back into keeping trails open. So anytime that I can find a way to do that while spending money in my hobby, I'm going to go for it. So that was the second big thing that I really liked. And then of course, the third big thing was the price on them. Mm-hmm. And but that's also kind of the thing that was keeping keeping me away from them.
Yeah, that was a drawback.
Is a drawback. And so I'm like, man, okay. And then I got the opportunity from Will to try out a set of used Milestar Patagonias in the 40-inch flavor, which is what I wanted to go up to and what I'm going to be looking at for the new build. And essentially risk-free, right? So he gave them to me. I had to help him unmount them and remount his new tires on his beadlocks. So a little sweat equity into that. But now I get to try out some tires and see if what clout they actually have, how I like them.
Yeah.
And so my initial review, which I think we've already talked about on the road, was they are phenomenal. For being a quote-unquote mud terrain tire on the road, great tire. For a 40-inch tire, they balanced really well. I had them aired up to 32 pounds.
Okay.
So I inflate them to 32, and they handle great on the road. They drive super smooth. They balanced super easily. They're not leaking air on my beadlocks like my IROCs were. And so I first kind of thoughts for just driving to and from the trail. Great tire.
Okay.
Better, definitely way better than the IROCs were.
Quieter.
Much quieter.
And
extremely quiet.
Better comfort.
Way more comfort. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
I mean, those are the two main things that people look for with, it's going to be it's still an aggressive tire. So it's going to have road noise.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, because it has the way that it's set up in the middle, it's definitely going to have a quieter pattern, I would assume.
Exactly. But at the same time, like I'm not building Kermit to be a road vehicle.
No. Well, so yeah, but you are.
But I am kind of like, exactly. Like I still want to be semi-comfy going to the trail so I don't dread, driving 4 hours to a trail somewhere.
Right.
And so I got to find this fine balance of road tire to off-road performance. And so on-road performance, great tire. So then I got to try off-road, right, on the rocks. And I will say the Patagonias hooked up to all the wet rocks on the Rubicon way better than my IROCs ever did.
Really?
Yes. And that surprised the hell out of me.
Oh.
I didn't think they would, I thought maybe they might get close to hooking up to the rocks. Like I know the Patagonias do great in Moab because they're a little bit softer compound and they have a lot of tread surface. So out in Moab, where you're mostly on all four tires a lot of the time, traction is amazing with those tires. I was very impressed with lifting a tire. Anytime I lifted a tire off the ground, I don't think I lifted any this weekend. But
you did.
I did?
I saw you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't think I slipped a tire the entire weekend. And so it had amazing traction. Even when my tires got stuffed into my fenders and I had to push through it, I still had enough traction to pull me through the tires getting stuffed in my fenders.
Right.
And so there was one spot on the Rubicon I always have trouble with. I can never get the line right.
Where?
So it is, I think it's, when we were talking with Jason, it was that double drop that you were talking about that people end up falling into and then sometimes get high centered in there.
Yeah. When I was telling the assistant that no matter what I do, we're going to bottom out. Just just be aware that we're going to bottom out here in a second.
Yep. So I always have trouble coming up that. Like my wheelbase seems to be just perfect to just miss the double drop, but going up it, I always have trouble getting up it. And I've been with you a couple times where I have troubles getting up and you have to like spot me up it. I think one time we were far passenger, like almost in the bushes coming up that side.
I think so.
And then another time, I finally just come to the point where I need to go up the driver's side, like far driver. But every time I come around, I forget to take the wide turn and I take the inside turn. So I try to go up that driver's side and like almost flip the rig over every single time I do it. But then once I get straightened out, I just sit there and spin a while and I end up having to bump it to get up the first thing and then just kind of level out and then grab and go. With the Patagonias, I walked right up it.
Really?
Didn't goose it, didn't anything. It crawled right up, didn't spin a wheel, didn't lose traction, nothing.
Yeah, I went up with, so I have the Toyo MTs, load range E, and I was aired down to like 5. 5, I think, yeah, 5.5. 5.5 or something like that. Non-beadlock wheels. I took the wide turn and squared up somewhere in the middle and went over the first ledge and then tried to turn to to hit it at an angle, and it like I went up, and then all of a sudden it slid back down, and I went even again, and I tried to do that again, and it went up, and then it slid back down and went even again, and then I was turning passenger that whole time and kind of working myself over into that direction, and then I was like, things aren't going well here, and so this whole entire time I'm spinning.
Yep.
And then I went driver, and then it went up, and then I slid over onto the driver's side that direction, and then all of a sudden it caught and went up.
Yeah.
But I was spinning a whole bunch on that.
Yeah, and a lot of people do. It takes me a
second.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never been able to get up that cleanly, and I walked right up it.
Nice.
And so I don't know if that's just the bigger tires. So comparing my 3950 IROX to the 40-inch Milestars, the Patagonias, when I took off my IROX, they measured at about 36 and 3/4 inches, but they were worn down to like 10-20% tread. And the Milestar Patagonia is measured at 38 and 3/4, worn down at about 40% tread.
Wow.
So I've got an extra 1.5 2 inches there that I didn't have with the IROX. So I don't know if that contributed to walking up, just the size of the tire and the rolling radius, or if it was the traction of the tire. So all I know is that there was a few times when I was like climbing stuff, I could hear the lugs on the tires grabbing, which I was not expecting, because the Patagonias, they're not a very wide tread pattern on those shoulder lugs.
Right.
They're pretty narrow for being a quote unquote mud terrain shoulder lug pattern. And so I was very surprised with the traction. What did
I don't think we said what you aired down to. What did you air down to?
Good question. So on the trip on the Rubicon, I was aired down to 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6 PSI, 6.2, somewhere around the whatever, 6 PSI. So that's what I was aired down to. And I got a better pooch out of the tires at 6 than I did with my IROX at like 5 to 4.
Wow. Okay.
So I was very impressed with their ability to pooch and give you that wide tread. I don't know what else to call it. What else? Balloon out and give you that nice wide big contact patch. I give it the tire jiggle test. So once it gets kind of aired down, you kick it, and if the entire tire jiggles, that's right about where I like it.
Okay.
So
just like your women.
Exactly. You kick them a little and see if they jiggle. And so that happened right about 6 PSI. So I was like, let's run it here and see how it does. And it did way, way better than I ever thought they would.
Cool. Yeah. I got a few questions for you.
Okay.
Well, one is load range D.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously do they make these in 40s in load range C?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
My IROX were load range C.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if the Patagonias are made in load range C.
Yeah, we just haven't looked it up. We're not sure.
Yeah.
Also, and then my follow-up to that was going to be, do you think Will got load range D because his Jeep is so much heavier than your 4Runner? That's the reason that he had load range D. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and then kind of another one would be, if you had load range C, you're probably now looking at going down to like 8. Mm-hmm. Maybe 8 to 10 PSI because they're going to be that much softer.
Yep.
So that's all kind of really interesting, that how that might play into each other, depending on what load range you ended up getting.
Yeah.
So also your for people out there, the size of the diameter or width of your wheel would determine how far you're going to air down as well. Because if you have like a really narrow wheel, then you're going to have a taller tire. And it's not going to want to air down as much. Though the benefit of that sometimes is that it's really squeezing on the bead and it helps hold things in. So,
yeah, there's a lot of different variables that go into airing down your tires.
Yeah.
So
that could be an episode in itself.
Yeah, totally could. But yeah, so, on road, awesome mud terrain. On the rocks, way better than what I ever thought of. Like if I was just doing, driving to and from the trails and using my rig during the summertime or spring and fall, like a 3-season tire, for the price point they are, phenomenal.
Okay.
I would say that would be the winner hands down.
Okay.
I wouldn't even look into the Cooper STTs or the Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses.
Right. So for me, this could be a good possibility. I
think this could be a great tire for anybody that does 3-season wheeling and doesn't do a whole lot of snow wheeling. A phenomenal tire. I think it's amazing.
Okay.
Especially for that price point. I'm like, now that I've kind of gotten to try it out, I'm like, okay, these are actually pretty damn good tire. Especially when they're 20% less than everything else out there.
Right.
So,
okay. So we've heard of the 3 seasons. So let's talk about the 4th season.
Yeah. The 4th season is snow wheeling.
Yes.
And so this is my favorite season. And I absolutely love going through unlimited depth. So essentially I talk about unlimited depth as being once you're up to your bumpers in snow. So whatever your bumpers or your frame rails are at. So in my case, we know that this is in Kermit, 29 inches. Once the snow is deeper than 29 inches, I consider that unlimited depth.
Right, because if you were to dig yourself down to your frame and your whole vehicle's sitting on the snow, your tires are still not touching the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's no way to dig your tires and dig holes down to the ground and grab traction, right?
Correct. Yeah. So unlimited depths would vary in your definition for all the vehicles out there, but
exactly.
Really the kind of rule of thumb there is that any snow deeper than when you would touch the ground.
Yep. And so, for unlimited depth snow wheeling, they did better than what I thought they were going to do.
Okay.
But they are nowhere near the IROCs.
Really?
Yeah, nowhere near it. Their saving grace was that I went up to the snow and we got that big snowstorm in. We had about 2 to 6 feet of snow, depending on where I was going.
Oh, cool.
So we were right in that unlimited depth range. And the saving grace of the Patagonias is that it is a soft tire. Because it's a soft tire, I was able to wheel all day long and keep the tread clear at 5 PSI. So in my opinion, you know that you're down at the right PSI when as you're wheeling, there's no snow sticking in between the treads of your tire. Because if you're soft enough, then as the tire goes around, you get snow stuck in it. And then as it reaches back around the front of the tire to go underneath you, the tire flexes right there. And as it flexes, the snow should release so that it comes out and the tread is clear so that you grab traction on the snow as the tread is compacted into the snow. And so as the tread goes back from being flexed to a normal circular shape, during that transition, the tread should flex and release the snow, thus keeping your tread clear. So if you're ever snow wheeling and you notice that you have a bunch of snow built up in the treads of your tires, you're not aired down enough.
Yeah.
Or your tire cannot clear its tread.
Right. But where should you be looking? Because if you're looking at the top of your tire, should you have snow there?
No. So it should release the snow as it's coming off of your traction surface, which is the snow underneath the tire.
So in a way, when it comes from the pooch, and it transforms into a normal looking tire, it should squeeze the snow out and throw it out of the tread. And then so for the remainder of your tire, you should have it be clear.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Yep. And so I was able to achieve that at 5 PSI, which is a much higher PSI than what I thought I was going to have to be at. So that was...
Yeah, what were you at when you would achieve that for the most part in snow conditions with the IROC?
With the IROC, I would be able to keep it clear 4 to 5, but ultimately I didn't have enough of a contact patch with the IROCs until I got down to, in order to stay up on top of the snow, until I got down to like 2 PSI. And so with the Milestars, the Patagonias, I was able to achieve the contact patch I wanted and keep the tread clear at 5 PSI.
Interesting.
Which was impressive. It beat out the IROCs in that fashion.
Right.
So I was able to stay up higher in the snow with more PSI in the tires. And that's probably due to the softer compound and the bigger tire, right?
Yes.
And so the problem with the Patagonia
bigger tire to stay up higher, but the bigger tire doesn't help necessarily with the PSI and squeezing it out, right?
It does, because with a bigger tire, you get a bigger contact patch as well. So a bigger contact patch means you stay on top of the snow. You don't go dig down into the snow as much.
Because of the bigger tire, you're saying that there's more space between the wheel and the exterior of your tire. That gap is bigger than it was with your IROX, right?
Well, the radius of the tire, the circumference of the tire is greater than the IROC. And so because of that, as you air down, your contact patch gets bigger and bigger, because your contact patch depends on your sidewall softness of the tire and the circumference of your tire. Mm-hmm. So,
but your sidewall and load rating is bigger on these than it was on the your IROX. Mm-hmm. So it's just all interesting. Like, you got a heavier rated tire, but it balloons out at a higher PSI, which is interesting, right? And so you're able to run a higher PSI
and get a bigger
contact patch.
Exactly.
Even though you've got a heavier rated tire.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what was very interesting to me when I was able to do that and achieve that with these tires. Because I totally went into this thinking I was going to have these tires at like 1 PSI to get a bigger contact patch than my IROX had. And so that was very impressive. I liked that aspect of it. But then it came down to the actual wheeling. And the tread on the Patagonias just isn't far enough apart, spread out enough to grab the snow as it gets compacted into the snow for traction. So whenever I needed to, whenever I dug up a wall in front of me, right, when snow wheeling, you kind of pack in a wall and then you have to kind of back up and get on top of it and then continue going. I couldn't do that with the Patagonias. Because it seemed like anytime the Patagonias needed to grab traction to pull me forward and kind of bite into the snow, they wouldn't do it. They kept me higher up in the snow, but they wouldn't grab the snow for traction, which I thought was interesting. But I've seen that happen more and more over and over again with the Patagonias on other people's vehicles in the snow. So I was kind of expecting that, but I was hoping that staying higher on the snow would offset it. And it didn't. Right.
Did you try airing down further?
I didn't, no. That would be an interesting thing to try. It would definitely give me a bigger contact patch. It wouldn't help keep the tread any clearer because it was already clearing just fine. So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I didn't try that. But I don't know. It was every time
when you were wheeling and you were pushing the snow and then you created the dam that you needed to get through, what did you do?
I would just have to back up and just steamroll it.
Yeah.
So just plow it,
hit it.
And instead of popping back up on top of the snow, it would just kind of plow through the snow and build up another dam and another dam. And I had to keep doing that until the snow wasn't as deep anymore. So there were sections that you're snow wheeling where the snow is going to be a little deeper, a little softer, or shallower and harder. And
so what you're saying is that it never, with those tires and how you were running it, you were never able to achieve the fact to get back on top of the snow.
Correct.
You had to continue to plow.
I had to continue to plow until the snow wasn't as deep. Yeah. And that's something that is detrimental to snow wheeling in a way. You can't snow wheel in unlimited depth snow if you can't grab traction and crawl up on top of the snow from the dam that you build from plowing. So
what if you had a completely flat belly?
Just slide through. Then you would probably end up just sitting in high centering and digging holes that you're high centered on your flat
go
belly.
With me here.
Okay.
Completely bird walk.
Okay.
2-wheel drive. Lowered.
Okay.
It's like pizza cutter front tires.
Okay.
Right? Like 33 paddle tires in the rear.
Okay.
Completely like boat bellied, not boat sided, but like curved front, flat all the way across the back.
I don't think it would work because I think the paddle tires would just quickly dig yourself a hole and then you're going to be sitting there with air around your rear tires. But
I was thinking that they might like jet propulsion fling you forward and you could be like a snowmobile.
Kind of. The benefit to snowmobiles is that like 80% of the vehicle is tracked.
Right.
Whereas in the situation you're describing, it would work great for mud or sand, I think, because mud and sand always fills in the holes.
Yeah, that would be funny.
But snow doesn't fill in your hole.
All right.
Yeah.
Like the next snail trail build, we'll have to try that.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I was very hopeful once I saw how well the Patagonias aired down, but they don't work in unlimited depth snow wheeling conditions.
Okay.
So
you're going to have a 3-season tire and then a snow wheel tire?
That's kind of what I'm thinking about doing at this point. Yeah. Because I do.
Or are you going to start looking at other alternatives?
That's a good question. I really like the way the Cooper STT Pros work in everything. I know that they are really loud on the road, but they offer a relatively smooth drive on the road, at least compared to like IROCs or TSLs or PBRs, something like that.
Oh, I like PBR. Would you be willing to go as far as possibly trading somebody some 40-inch Patagonias for some 40-inch STT Pros if somebody was up for it?
I would totally try that. At least trade them to try. For a while and see, do a comparison kind of thing. Absolutely. I'd be down for that.
So if there's anybody out there that is preferably in the Sacramento area or nearby that would be willing to loan Tyler some tires or trade for the Patagonias, then so we can do some more testings, get in contact with us. And how can they do that, Tyler?
You can call in 916-345-4744. Or you can get in touch with me on Instagram, 4x4 Twitter Tyler, or there's an email at tyler@snailtrail4x4.com, or you can send it over to Jimmy as well, and he'll forward it on over to me. And he watches the Snail Trail 4x4 account on Instagram, and his email is jimmy@snailtrail4x4.com.
Yes.
How's that?
Perfect.
Sir.
Good job. I'm very proud of you. Normally I take that part.
Yeah. So yeah, I think for the value of the tire, the price you're paying, how it performs on the street, on the rocks, amazing, beautiful. I think it is the go-to tire, especially that they're supporting public land initiatives for 3-season stuff. Awesome. But if you want something that's going to do well in the snow, I wouldn't recommend it. At least in unlimited depth, quote unquote, unlimited depth snow wheeling.
Right.
Now, if you just like to go through, forest roads that are people have already made tracks in, and you're just looking to kind of stay in the tracks or maybe go outside one tire at a time or one side of your vehicle at a time, they're going to work great for that. But if you're looking at making fresh tracks in unlimited depth snow, not the best tire. So, unfortunately.
So, out of curiosity, what Tylers?
Yeah. I'm glad we got that in there.
Yeah. Is Sean running?
He is running 35-inch Patagonias.
Okay. And what'd you air him down to, or what did he air down to while you guys were out there?
So yeah, when we were out snow wheeling on Monday, he aired down to 7 PSI, and he does not have bead locks.
Oh, okay. Was it clearing the tire?
His tread was, for the most part, clearing the tire. When I finally had him kind of go and get stuck so he could practice getting unstuck by himself.
Okay, so was that when he was leading and after you were not breaking the trail anymore?
Yes, when I was not breaking the trail and breaking the Forerunner instead, that's when I had him go and play around and get stuck. And when he was getting stuck, his tires were not clearing tread.
So he needed to air down more.
So I think he needed to air down more. And it didn't really look like his tires were pooching that much, ballooning in your terms.
Yeah.
And so I think he could have aired down more, but 7's still a pretty good PSI for a second-gen Forerunner to be aired down to.
Yeah.
I still think he could have gone down to probably like 5 and seen what happened. But what was really interesting to me afterwards, we were airing up, and the voids in between his shoulder lugs are like a 1/2 inch wider than mine are on my 40s.
Really?
Yeah. And so I don't know if
Is there a different
newer
brand?
Tire?
Yeah.
They're Milestar Patagonias.
Well, I mean, is there a different model?
I don't think so. I looked at all the labeling. They're 8-ply D, load range D tires. But his tires are brand new. He just got them 1 to 2 months ago, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if
Maybe
Milestar adjusted them a little bit, or
maybe the lug is smaller.
Maybe.
And then when you wear it down, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And since you're at 40,
possibly. Like, I really want to get out like some digital calipers and take some measurements between his tires and mine now.
yeah, you think they would? Well, they probably wouldn't just scale it down.
I don't know.
I wonder if the lug on a 40 is the same length as a lug on the 35.
I don't know.
Or
that would
if
be a good question for to ask a tire manufacturer. If we can get one on and be like, how do you make a 35-inch tire versus a 40? Do you just literally scale it down or up by 10%? Or
do you
different
go
dimensions on everything?
Yeah, you go, well, this tire is so much smaller. Let's take off like 3 or 4 patterns and then have it on there.
Yeah.
And it'll still work.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something that I'm kind of really curious
The
about.
easy answer is just scale it down.
Yeah.
But, I wonder how that would work.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what he was running. And he just did just fine. He definitely wasn't able to make the same kind of progress I was making. And I would assume that's just because of the bigger tire. Like, he started digging his axles and plowing really quickly, faster than I would, which is obvious because he's not up as high.
Yeah, he's lower.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I was very hopeful once I saw the Patagonias air down and what they were doing aired down, and then experiencing them not grabbing the snow was really just kind of a disappointment.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at possibly having 2 sets of tires, a 3-season and then a snow wheeling tire in the future. So we'll see how that goes.
I wonder what other people suggest for snow tires. I know that you love your IROX as an all-around tire for the most part. Maybe you should just have 2 tires as one street to get you to trail. And then you throw on your IROX when you get to the trail.
Right.
And then when you get home, you have to swap out, or you're back to the street, you have to swap in.
Yeah, but see, I like the Patagonias better for rocks.
Ooh, that's saying a lot.
I know it's saying a lot. I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how well the Patagonias did in rocks versus the IROX. So I think for street and rocks, I would take the Patagonias over the IROX.
Wow. Okay.
But for snow, they don't compare to the IROX at all.
Interesting.
So, it's my conundrum continues.
Yes.
So I still want to try out. Well, I know what the Cooper S2Ts are, and I'm pretty sure I would like them. But I still want to try out or see somebody with them, the Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses. So if anybody has any out there, let me know. Yeah. That's kind of where my tire problem is and my review on the Patagonias, and hopefully people can garner some information about tires through this as well. Like, depending on what kind of wheeling you want to do, what are some of the qualities of tires you want to look for? So,
yeah, it's an interesting topic. I mean, kind of just that in general. It's like, what wheeling do you do? What tire do you want? Because I'm sure that, if you're driving to a mud bog, you're going to want different tires. If you're driving to, Sand Hollow, you're going to want different tires. If you're just wheeling on, at Moab and you're trailering, you're going to want different tires.
Yeah.
So there's, if you trailer your rig to go to the sand dunes, you're going to want different tires. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting topic. And I wonder if there is an answer to the all around possibly best tire, or if the answer really is no, you're going to really need all these different tires.
That's a great question. Honestly, from everything I've experienced in off-roading and watching people go wheeling in different environments, different terrains, different uses, trailering, not trailering, I honestly feel like the Pro Comps are like one of the top tires to use. But I don't want to support 4-wheel parts right now. So that's
Have you ever seen the Pro Comps in the snow?
Yes, they do fantastic. They air down and balloon out, pooch out really well. Their tread clears really well, and the tread does dig in and grab the snow. And from everything I've heard, they are definitely louder than the Patagonias on the road, but for being an aggressive tread mud terrain, they're not that bad rough riding. Like they are, from what I've heard, they're smoother riding than the Cooper STTs.
Interesting.
On the road.
I don't know if this makes any sense, but it might be interesting to try, is to throw a different tire on each different point of your vehicle. And just see how they act. Why am I always spinning out on my driver's side front? Why am I always digging a hole on the passenger rear? That would be kind of funny to do or try.
That would be interesting.
And you probably would, like halfway through the day, you want to rotate them.
Rotate around. Oh man. There you go. There you have it. And we are right around an hour in this episode right now. So I think we will save the other topic for another day, maybe next Monday. And that one's going to be a fun little campfire discussion that you and your friends can talk about around a campfire. What does it mean to be a vehicular recreationalist? And do other people think that vehicular recreation is defined correctly? People that control the lands that we recreate on. Yeah. So, that's going to be kind of the topic of next Monday. Hope you guys tune in for it. It should be an interesting discussion because I don't think I have an answer for it. For sure. I don't know if anybody has an answer for it. And so I think it's going to be an interesting thing to bring up and discuss and see if we can figure something out, you and me talking about it, and drum up some discussion with listeners. And who knows, maybe we can get this kind of worked and worded into different land management definitions across the country. So cool, man. Anything else that you want to give or talk about real quick? Any shout outs? Do you have any SOs? Any SOs to anybody?
The only thing I could really think of just off the spur of the moment was, I don't know if you've listened to it or not, but the Mike and Max Off-Road Podcast Mike did a trip down to Mexico. Okay. And they pretty much refused him to go across the border and the guys that he was with. And he talks about his whole adventure about going from Arizona to California, trying to get into Mexico. I think he didn't say where he was trying to go into, but I think it was Mexicali. Okay. He said it was one of the smaller ones outside of San Diego. So I think it was Mexicali, but I'm not sure. And then they talked about how they rerouted him to the Tijuana one and how the problems that he had. And it was in the Mike fashion of his stories. He did it actually stayed on topic and did a very good job. Wow. Okay. And it was a funny story. So if you haven't listened to the Mike and Max Off-Road Podcast, and go listen to his Mexico adventure, that was pretty good.
Nice. Very cool. And then we're going to be getting together with a couple of other podcasts here and doing a fun episode that's going to be kind of split up in a fun way again. And we also have the significant others, the ladies, the snail ladies, slated to come on in the near future as well. So a couple of really fun episodes planned for you guys coming up here shortly. I hope you guys are loving everything that we're doing. Keep the reviews coming. Keep telling all your buddies about it, and we'll keep recording podcasts. How's that?
Sounds great. I also wanted to say that, you got me thinking that we do dangerous. Have some fun things possibly planned for KOH.
Ooh, we got all sorts of fun plans going on in the background here. So, cool, man. Do you have any final words for everybody out there?
So we just went from the driest spell that Sacramento has ever had to this last storm, beat the record of 1880 with the most rain in 24 hours in downtown Sacramento with 5.8 inches.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Talk about being adaptable here. It's fun and it makes life interesting. And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Okay.
What happens when a snowman throws a tantrum?
I don't know.
It has a meltdown.
Oh. Snowmen like warm hugs, though, Jimmy.
They do.
I
think I've said this one before. What do you call an old snowman?
An old snowman? I don't know.
Puddle.
Oh. Nice.